Okay, everybody wants to take their seat. We're going to get started tonight. Want to give a nice hand for Joe Ryan, who came out tonight to play for us. Many of you know Joe is Vince's cousin, and he comes out. He plays at our corn roast. He's been up at Advent for some of our little musical concert he did up there. So yeah, we really appreciate you coming out. And much appreciate it. Yeah. So yeah, thanks to everybody for coming out for this evening for the Memorial Pavilion at Advent kickoff event for the capital campaign. Glad you could make it out here on a Friday night, and I appreciate your time. So we have a little presentation to go through, and just to give you an idea of the night, we have we'll do an opening prayer and introduction. We have a little bit of history here at Advent, as you know, and so we're going to do a little condensed version of that and highlight some of the milestones. Of course, then we're going to get into the Memorial Pavilion itself. We have a video, we have some personal sharing, get into the cost details, and then of course, how you can respond and assist us in building this pavilion. And then, obviously, if you have any questions, hopefully we can answer them, or we'll find somebody to get the answer for you. And then we'll close with a closing prayer. So at this time, I'm going to invite Pastor Mark up to do an opening prayer for us.
The Lord be with you.
And also with you.
Let us pray. Holy God, we give you thanks for this evening, for those gathered here, for the chance to celebrate this community, celebrate what you have done through us and what you might do through us. So we ask that you would be present, continuing to lead, guide, inspire, and direct, and that we would follow. Bless us and be a blessing through us in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Mark. So I do want to acknowledge the Capital Campaign team that's put together the presentation, the campaign package you're going to receive this evening, and obviously doing the coordination of reporting out on campaign results and so forth as we go forward. And that would be Dean Schallenberger, Harry Johnson, Betty Keck, Doretta Rossler, and myself. And a big shout out to Sarah Self, who as always does a great job. She did our logo for us and helped us with the campaign flyer. It's definitely a great benefit for us to be able to utilize her skills, and she's always really supportive of us. Dean could not be here tonight, and he's not happy about that, but he came down with COVID on Sunday, and so yeah, he's feeling much better. I spoke to him yesterday, but maybe you'll hear from him a little later in the presentation, but yeah, he's disappointed that he couldn't attend. And on top of that, I'm disappointed he couldn't attend because he was going to cover the history portion of this. So, and Dean definitely knows a little bit about the history of the congregation. So I will do my best. He gave me some notes. So if I get anything wrong, blame Dean. So with that, I think most of you know we are an old congregation. Our old congregation dates back to 1732. This is the original congregation house over in Waxhaw, PA. Mine house. I'm sure I didn't say that right, Rich, but close enough.
You did.
But this was the original log cabin. It served dual purpose. It was a school during the week, and then on the weekend, it was, of course, used for church services. And it was called a Union Church because it was jointly owned by the Lutheran congregation and the Reformed congregation, the United Church of Christ. And as I said, Dean's been around for a long time. He's been involved in the history. And I don't know, but when I was looking through these photos, I actually caught Dean in one of them. So I don't know what he's doing. He's pretty well dressed out there in the field, but he's definitely been around. He dates back pretty far. This is the old Goshenhofen Church. This was actually built, it started in 1744. That's when they laid the cornerstone. It took 4 years to complete. It was completed in 1748. Some of the big highlights while they were at that, the church still stands over in Waxhaw. You can go there. was actually just there the other week. And the first pipe organ, Vince, was installed in 1774. And one of the big notes was in 1897, women were given the permission, if you will, to vote on all church questions. And that was a big deal because that was before women had the right to vote in national elections, which didn't happen until 1920. So that's something that happened within our church. And then they renovated the building in 1915. They added a second floor. That's where the worship sanctuary is now, and so worship services were up there. And then in 1964, this is an important note, is that was the first time that they formed a union study committee to talk about dissolution of the Union Church. So that's 1964. It took a while. And Wayne, some people are from the old church. They've been talking about it for a long time. So we jump ahead, and this is a new beginning in Harleysville. So back in June of 1987, there was an auction of land at the location where our church now sits. And I didn't ask Dean the details of this, but I think it was Dean who drove by and saw the sign, right? And then called up someone from the church and the ELCA, said, hey, you might be interested in this. And they were. So, in 1987, the ELCA purchased 35 acres at this location. It was at $13,000 an acre. That's pretty good back then, I would imagine. And the big thing was the ELCA wanted kind of a new outpost. Harleysville was a growing community, so they really wanted a location that was highly visible. And that's why they had a lot of interest in that location. So they bought the land. They said they would hold it for the Lutheran congregation, our congregation, until we were able to do the dissolution of the Union property. So that was 1987. And then this happened in June of 1990. This is actually the dedication of the sign out in the city. And you see the name of the church at that time. It was Coming Soon, the Lutheran Church of Old Goshenhoppen. So originally that was going to be, I guess, the name of the church. Pastor Malfi was there with Dean right next to him. I'm not sure. Some of these other people, Dean, I don't know, but
There's
Judy.
Sarah's in the red
Sarah's in
jumper.
there. Okay. So, and
Pearl
is this Pearl Oschlager?
That's
Yeah, that's Pearl Oschlager. That's what I thought. So the sign was dedicated in 1990, and then in July of 1990, we actually received approval from the Lower Salford Township to build the building. So that happened. And then finally in October, the Lutheran congregation purchased the land from the ELCA, officially. And then we get to the groundbreaking. So this is a pretty cool picture. I always enjoy when we see this picture here with the light shining down through the clouds. This is the actual groundbreaking in October of that year of the new church. And these are some pictures that were taken from that time of the groundbreaking. And then at this time, you see the name change actually occurs. When the construction began in November, that's when it actually officially we filed to have our name changed. And the official name of our church is Advent Lutheran Church of Goshenhoppen. We dropped the old. We are new. So, and these are some of the pictures from here. And Wayne, I'm not sure, is that you happen to be in this picture?
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if this was Wayne.
I see him, yeah.
That's right.
Probably is me.
Yeah, I thought it was, but I wasn't 100% sure that was Wayne Mensinger, yeah?
Dorothy, right now.
We had our, as part of, as they moved along, they ended up having the final service at Old Goshenhoppen Union Church. That happened in July of 1991. These are just some of the pictures that are from that event. One thing to point out is on this slide down here in the bottom left, the woman there on the far left is Judy Moyer. She was the president of the UCC Church, okay, at that time. And then next is Amy, Rochelle, and Austin Schallenberger are there. And next to them is Leroy Oschlager. Leroy was the president of the congregation at that time. And Leroy is the 5th generation of Oschlagers at the church. And 1 week later, July 21st, they had the first service in Harleysville. So one thing to note, picture on the far right there, this is a gentleman from Graterford Prison, Charles Harrison, and he made the items that are on our altar to this day. He did the pulpit, the lectern, the cross, and yeah, all those items were made by him. And so that's something that is kind of an interesting side note. These are just some of the pictures from that first service. You have the first offering being counted by Wayne Young, who was at Stan. I think you just ran into him, not that over at St. Paul's actually. And then there's Rochelle with the first altar guild. And Arlene Landis in the kitchen. And notice we didn't have cabinets on the walls yet at that time, just some cabinets around the bottom. And then there's our fellowship hall at that time. I'm going to back up on that one. So just a note on that with fellowship hall. And so that's our first service at that time. In the early 2000s, you know, obviously the church was growing. Pastor Joe had arrived back in '96, and church was, you know, a lot of young families that were growing, and things were tight. I know when we came in 2000, and the rosters at the same time and so forth, we were all jammed in there. You only had 2 classrooms, I believe, in the original church building. And so a lot of the Christian education happened in Fellowship Hall. And we just had these little partitions up between that did nothing to dampen any noise. It was loud. So yeah, it was interesting. But that kind of set the stage for, as we went into those early 2000s, that we really needed more room. And that began the discussions about expanding the church. So, does anybody happen to remember what the theme was or the tagline for the expansion, for the capital campaign? Yeah, well, that was our, the Bible verse that we used was about the kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed, but it was growing to share the good news. Here's the brochure from that time. Yeah. Anybody remember what the amount was that we asked for? Let's see. I believe it was $500,000 for a $1.2 million project. Yeah, it was a big thing. So it actually began in 2004, and it was a 3-year capital appeal to build the building. So here we are at the groundbreaking, expansion groundbreaking in October of 2006. So Dean Schallenberger, once again, was heavily involved, and along with George Murnau, they were the co-chairs of the building group or team. This is the expansion construction pictures. Okay, again, the expansion basically added, I don't know how many classrooms, however many we added on, but we added several. We added offices, we added the nursery. We got Vince out of the closet for his office. We gave him a real office. He does have to share it with Carrie now. But yeah, it was all good. And of course, that Schallenberger family is always hanging around. There they are. So I don't know. Yeah. This is the building dedication that happened in September 16th, 2007. Okay. I don't know if about George, I remember when he came back to do the tuba playing. He was a tuba player. So, And then these are just some pictures of the expanded classrooms at that time and the kids that were in the classroom. I kind of joke, there's a big kid, Brad Grunwald, there in the bottom corner there. So. And then in 2007, we also celebrated as a congregation our 275th anniversary as a church, as a congregation. And this was my favorite logo that Sarah did. I always loved this logo. I don't know, yeah. That it incorporated, the old log house and the new church. So. And these are just a couple of shots of the new church. This is the winter shot is one of my favorites too. Virginia, does that happen to be one that you took possibly? No? Vince took it? I'm not sure who took it, but yeah, I know we've had it on our website occasionally and things like that, but it's a nice shot. And then in 2021, more recently, we celebrated our 30th anniversary here in Harleysville. Okay, as a congregation here in Harleysville. And you notice it's outside. And guess what? Again, what was happening in 2021? Everything was outside. COVID, right? So yeah, we all gathered outside. We had the big cake and a good time. And this picture is of the folks who were part of the original church from I hear music. So, a couple questions. Let's see. Anybody know how many pastors our congregation has had across its entire history?
Including members or being pastor?
Being pastor. Any guesses? Oh, we got Rich back there.
I'm gonna say it's about 30, and I know that exactly half of the pulpit changes have occurred in my lifetime.
Okay. You overbid.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
22.
22. All right, Stan. And you probably should know the answer. So.
20 was my favorite.
Yeah. Anybody, and how many pastors have we had here in Harleysville? Rich? 4? Yeah. 4. No, we're not counting interims. Yes, we've had 4. And obviously, through the life of a congregation, the pastor plays an important role. I mean, people come and people go. That's true. Many people stay. I've been here a long time. Pastors, I think I said this when Pastor Steve retired. But unfortunately, I know Pastor Steve and Jean wanted to be here tonight, but they're away. But at his retirement, I mentioned that he didn't quite make he was below average, I told him, because he didn't make the average of, I think it was 8 years for pastors to stay at a congregation. That's typical. And it's kind of funny looking through our history, that's somewhat about right, but I know Pastor Joe was 12 and a half. We happen to have one of the pastors was here for 40 years, from 1800 to 1840. I mean, when I saw that, it was George Roller. So 40 years, that's a little long.
That is not the longest.
Okay.
The longest was 43 years.
Is that right?
1893 to 1936.
I think I missed that one,
Yeah.
but hard to believe. That's a long time. So, but we did want to honor our pastors that have been here, at Advent. And I apologize for not having a better picture of Pastor Malthe, so I just kind of cropped one that I could find. But he was here from, obviously, when it was Old Gosh and Hoppin' in '86. Came here over to Harleysville and was here till 1995, and he retired. And then Pastor Joe, yay, 1996 to 2008. And then we had Pastor Steve from 2010 through 2016. Like I said, below average years, you know, but he did okay. He was all right. And then we have Pastor Mark, 2018 to, you know, oh, and I missed my sabbatical joke on that 40-year thing. You know, I hope at 40 years that guy got a sabbatical somewhere. I don't know. You know, and the other thing was, you know, of course, when Steve started, then that's when we started our requirement to have hyphenated names for our pastors. Yeah. And I also wanted to just highlight our dedicated staff, because right after Pastor Joe showed up, we got this guy named Vince Ryan, and he stuck around for a while. So, yes. And Vince is, of course, our minister of music, and I always highlight his title because it's an important title, and I know he takes it very seriously. He's not just a musician, he's not just an organist, he is a minister of music here for this congregation. And you know, he knows the importance of music within our liturgy and our services, and he works to incorporate everybody, you know, into that. So thank you, Vince. And also want to highlight Carrie. Carrie, of course, came along with Vince. Has been here a long time, has done many things for us, whether it was the cherub choir, Christian Ed, and so forth. And then in 2015, of course, she took on the role of our coordinator of spiritual development. So it's been great having them as dedicated staff. I say we went through COVID, and our staff did a fabulous job. So yeah, much appreciated. Okay, that's our history. All that, you know, 292 years condensed down into, you know, like 15, 20 minutes, not bad. So why are we here tonight? We're here, it's the next step, right? You know, we've done a lot of big things in the congregation over the years, and this is the next thing. We're going to build a pavilion, but we need your help, and we're going to show a little video here. It's about 3 minutes, and just give you an idea of what the pavilion might look like, and also, you know, how it could be used, and then and the reason we're doing it, the memorial monies that have been given, you know, to support kind of that kickstart to get this going. So I'm going to start this video. Okay, hopefully you enjoyed that video, and just so you know, all the hay on the pavilion, they actually had done a live nativity just prior to Dean getting over there to take that video, so that's where the hay was coming from, just the way it worked out. So it hopefully gives you an idea of, like I said, those are the people that, we're utilizing memorial funds. That's part of, I'll call, the reason we're doing it is because, we have these funds available. We want to utilize those funds in memory of these people. And so at this time, I'm going to ask Harry Johnson to just share a few words.
Hey, thanks everybody for coming out tonight. I knew I was going to have to say something tonight, and I practiced what I was going to say all week long, and I was all ready to do it. And then I got a phone call yesterday from Dean Schellenberger, and he says, "Harry, check this video out that I've made," because he said he had COVID and he can't come here. And so I watched this video, and this video says everything that I was going to say. I mean, better than what I would have said it, okay? So when you see this video, you're going to see what I'm talking about. But the reason that I started this Pavilion Fund is because after Linda died, I had to make an obituary for the North Penn Reporter. And so I get to the part where if people want to send flowers in her memory. So I get to that part and I'm thinking, well, Linda always wanted to donate that kind of stuff to the church instead of flowers. So I'm thinking, okay, well, we got different funds at the church we could donate to. You got the memorial fund, you got the music fund, and I'm thinking, what would she want to do it to donate her this flower money to? And so I'm thinking, as soon as I thought that, I knew what it was. She wants a pavilion. I mean, when she was on that fellowship team every year, when they go to plan the picnic, why can't we have our own pavilion? You could hear the girls every year, same thing every year. Then when we go to the pavilion, the congregation saying, look around, boy, we should have one of these. Well, I think it's about time we do have a pavilion, And so I put it in lieu of flowers, donate, you can make donations to Linda for this pavilion, a new pavilion at the Advent Church. And that was the seed money to what we're doing today. And so now it's time to watch Dean's video, and you'll see what I'm talking about.
All right. Thank you, Harry.
Hello, my name is Dean Schellenberger. I won't be with you tonight because I have COVID and I don't want to pass it on to anyone else. What I'm going to try to do in this 3.5 minute short video is to cover 15 months of my life going from the pavilion idea to becoming a passion. So let's start in August of 2022. Linda Johnson had passed away. Harry decided and Linda, that they would want to have donations towards a pavilion for the future in lieu of flowers. So that's what they did. Come September 10th, I had a stroke due to melanoma in my brain. I needed someone to take me to Penn in Philadelphia for treatments, and Harry volunteered to do that. So on our way to and from Philadelphia, 80 miles an hour on the turnpike, I asked Harry, are you going to push this pavilion thing? You're going to spearhead it? What's going on? Oh, no. He said, I'm not pushing it. It's just an idea for the future. I said, Harry, I'm going to run with it. I've got time on my hands. So I decided to do some investigation. I heard through the grapevine that Old Gosh and Hoppin Church had built a pavilion, fairly new, it was only $26,000. Figured, hey, that's doable. Took a look at it. Took my wife along, Rochelle. We looked at it. I wasn't real enthused about it. It was pretty bare bones. We looked at 4 others in the community. We liked a couple of them. I really liked the one. I sent a email or a text to Steve Nevin, Council President, in October of 2022, said, Steve, here's a picture of the pavilion I'm going to build. And Steve replied, he said, oh, really? You know you have to have certain procedures to do this. I said, I understand that, but I'm going to build it. So going from there, I had no idea on costs. Talked to manufacturers, talked to contractors. We're looking at $70,000. That's a big difference from 26. So I talked to someone else and they said, hey, Culpsville just built one. By the Amish, you can probably do it cheaper. Took a look at that one, liked that one, came back to the congregation. We looked at options and the congregation said, we want to go bigger and we like the nice one. So we got numbers and we're now over $100,000. I talked to a local contractor, said, can you do this for us? You run the program. And he came up with $160,000. And I called him back. I said, that's not good stewardship as far as I'm concerned. That's too much money. So we went back and forth. Harry had a neighbor who has a contracting company. They're willing to do it at cost, no overhead fees. So that's how we came up with the numbers that we have right now. Now, you know, where do we stand otherwise? Well, my wife died, Rochelle, in August of 2023, and we decided, let's have people donate to the pavilion instead of flowers. We had 67 people donate money, over $6,100. And then this fall, we sold her yarn, which is almost another $4,000. So we have, from that, we have $10,000 towards the project. So there's a lot of enthusiasm out there. It's going to be a great, great improvement for our property, for our programming. We ask for your support and pray about it, and we hope it'll be a success. Thank you.
Yeah, as I say, the best laid plans, you know, like I said, Dean was disappointed not to be here, but we were able to make it work. And we're taping this, and so he'll be able to watch this also. And finally, we also have some words from Betty Keck.
Well, I'm like Harry. I am going to keep it short because I think you've heard everything that there was to say pretty much about the pavilion. George and I joined Advent Church about 28 years ago. And when we came here, we would go to Old Goshenhoppen for the church picnic every year, which was enjoyable. We really liked that. It gave us a chance to meet all the new people and share and get to know them. And that happened for quite a few years. And then we started going various places for the picnic. And so I remember that almost every time we left Goshenhoppen, George would say, it would be so nice if we just had a pavilion at Advent, because we could have it right there and we could have picnics and we could do all sorts of things if we had it. Well, we didn't have it. So when George died in September, I did much like Harry and Dean and others, and decided that instead of flowers, I wanted people to donate to the church. And that also went to the Pavilion Fund. When I was a bit over 72, which was a while ago too, I learned about RMDs, which is required minimum distributions from investments. If you have to be over 72, but at that point, you have to take money from that fund. And because it's an earning, it's taxable. But it's a great way, if you are able to do it, to give to benefit some causes if you like to. And so I've been doing that off and on once in a while, and found it an easy way to make contributions. And so that's one of the ways that I'm going to do a contribution to the fund. And I'm just sharing that. I'm sure a lot of you know about that, but maybe somebody doesn't. So thank you for your interest in coming tonight, and thank you for your contributions to the Pavilion Fund.
Thank you, Benny. And just before I forget, I wanted to mention also, I talked to Brooke Williams in regards to another way to give to make sure that we could do this. But we do have a way to receive stock, because someone at the annual meeting had actually asked me about that. And I confirmed with him that we can accept stock into our Thrivent Endowment Fund as an account, which then we can convert and bring back to support the Pavilion Fund, or it can be designated to go to wherever you want it to go, but for any other type of giving. But just be aware of that. I want to share that, and we'll be communicating that a bit more widely for other things. Yep. So, how might we use the Pavilion? You know, we've been talking about the Pavilion and how people have gone to other churches, other events, and say, hey, this Pavilion is great, I wish we had one. Obviously, there's numerous things we can do. So I kind of just pulled together some pictures from off the web and from other churches, and just a brief, like 1-minute video here for you. Those are just some of the things that we might be able to utilize the Pavilion for. And as far as Advent itself, and I mean, we've shared this information, I think, at the December meeting when the congregation approved going forward with the capital campaign. But we have outreach opportunities, obviously, that we can utilize the Pavilion for, and whether that's, you know, music concerts. We have numerous groups that use our building. We have summer camps. People like to be outside. You know, they like to do things outside, and so it's just another option. It's another meeting area, gathering place for fellowship that people can use. We can rent it out for parties, and I'm sure there's other things that, you know, we're not even thinking about that we could utilize this for outreach. And then obviously with our Advent ministries, again, you know, whether it's taking some of our Sunday church school classes outside, obviously for VBS, it's, you know, provides some shade finally without having to buy any, you know, tents and so forth. Our church picnic, you know, we could have our church picnic there, of course, and numerous other things. And the one at the bottom is, you know, we could also do our corn roast at our site if we so choose. So, how much will it cost? Well, as we talked about it, more than we thought. And obviously, it got a little bigger. I mean, one of the things, as Dean mentioned, was we did solicit feedback from the congregation. And I think, you know, there was consensus in that regard of, we certainly wanted it to look nice and be nice. Like he said, you know, he saw some bare bones ones that didn't look so nice. and probably weren't going to last that long. That's probably one of the bigger concerns. But so if you want to build something nice and you want it to last, it costs some money. And of course, during these last couple of years, the inflation and so forth has certainly driven up many of the costs associated with building pretty much anything. So this is a little more detail on the cost. You saw it from the video before, but we have obviously the concrete footer, the slab, excavation, and so forth is $43,000 estimate. And we have the electric. That was one that blew me away. $20,000 for the electric. But that's, and Dean said, we actually did go out and we got several estimates from different places on this. This ends up being pretty much our best pricing. The pavilion comes as a kit. The actual main structure is as a kit. And for the size that we're doing, it's $68,000. It consists of the posts, the rafters, the roof, shingles, the cupola on top. This is where we could have saved a little bit of money if we wanted to go to the smaller size. Okay, that was talked about at the meeting. But like I said, we made the decision that we wanted to do slightly larger size. So the size we're doing is a little larger than the one that you saw in the video. That was from Christ Culpsville. So I'm not sure their exact size, but they have a smaller footprint. And out of all that, once you know, the rain gutters aren't even included. So you got to throw that in. You got the site fees and so forth. And then Dean also mentioned about the contractor management fee, and that is being covered by Harry's neighbor, Zach Moore. He's with Velocity Ventures, and AP General Contracting is associated with them. So he was unable to be here tonight. He was hoping to be able to attend, but we really appreciate it and want to recognize, that he is providing us, and saving us significant dollars in doing the contractor management of this project. And then you have, of course, the township has to get their cut. Permit fees are $3,000. We have the picnic tables, which again, I was shocked, to think that these metal tables cost basically $1,000 a piece. We thought we'd start with 6. We didn't want to cover the entire, area because you wanted area to be able to do things underneath the pavilion. Obviously, we can think about that, if we need more at a later date. But right now, we're planning for 6. And then if we just factored in some additional cost variances and some miscellaneous things that we might be missing. And that brings us to this grand total of $160,000 that we talked about. Any questions from anybody before I go forward? Like I said, this is some information that was shared at the previous December meeting. So what are our campaign goals? Well, we have 2 of them. First, we want to receive pledges of at least $130,000 by early March. Pledges. We want to receive the pledges by then. We're asking for a return date of February 29th if possible. And the pledges may be fulfilled over a 2-year period. Okay? Obviously, we prefer as much money to be given up front, but obviously for some larger gifts that might not be doable. And even for some smaller ones, if people need to spread it out, that's okay. But we are, obviously encouraging people, if they can, to provide funds as much as possible, as early as possible, basically. Because, goal number 2, we want to start construction in 2024. Okay? Because we also don't want costs to go up, because they're certainly not going to come down. So the sooner we can start, I think the better off we're going to be. And so that are the goals of the campaign. So as far as how we're going to cover the costs, so it's kind of interesting. You go through the history of the church. I mean, we can do big things. We've done big things as a congregation. Before many of us were here, some of you were there, during some of those big things, such as moving to Harleysville in '91, right? That's a big thing. Buy the land, build a church. We went through the expansion. I mentioned the numbers on that. $500,000. We took on a fairly large mortgage at that time. But we did it. I think that was another Deanism, where he said, gonna step out of the boat and don't look down. And we did it. And we kept going, and we managed, and we pushed through that. I think it was 2011, from 2011 to 2014, we did another capital campaign to pay down the mortgage. And again, we did it. We brought that mortgage down from, I think it was $77,000 a year down to like $47,000. Our mortgage balance now is at about $362,000. So it started off at almost $1 million. So again, we can do big things. And guess what? We did big things even during COVID. If you remember, just before COVID, we had approved doing a capital campaign we had to replace the shingles, the roof on the original section of the church. We wanted to replace flooring, repair and seal the driveway and so forth. And boom, 2 months later, COVID hits. But we pushed forward, right? And we just broke it into chunks that we could manage. We did, I think the first one was $40,000, did the roof. And then the second one, we did the flooring and the parking lot. That was $45,000. We did it. You know, the money is there. People are willing to give. Our congregation is extremely generous. So this is just one more thing. This is the next step. So how are we going to make this happen? Well, like I said, I mean, $160,000, it's not chump change, not to us. You know, that's a big number. But we already have a start, so we got to kind of start building our pathway, if you will. We have $15,000 in memorial funds that we've, again, was kind of the impetus for all this and get us started. We also have $15,000 from 3 families for advanced pledges. So that gives us our $30,000. And that's where we are. We're at, basically in need of $130,000 to cover the cost of this project. So this is just an example of, the giving patterns that we might be able to utilize, if you will, to achieve these goals. I mean, bottom line, just as in every capital campaign, we're going to need some families to be able to provide some larger gifts. We're going to need a significant number of families to be able to provide those gifts in the middle range of, let's say, $2,000 to $5,000. And then we know that there's going to be quite a number of families who can only support $1,000 or less. That's just the nature of the congregation as a whole. We represent our neighborhood, the community. And all we're asking is that people who can support it and can give will step up and support the project. Anybody have any questions on this?
Yeah,
Right.
has any of the building permits been approved yet or anything?
No, not yet.
Okay.
Although I will say, I know that we have had, they did look at like our engineering drawings, because when we did the expansion, we have like a site drawing and so forth. That's all been looked at by their engineers. Like we didn't have to do any updates to that. But I think that's the extent of it. Dean would know a little bit more details on that, but yeah.
Well, I mean, if you want to get it done in 24,
Oh yeah.
or get the permit.
I mean, let's put it this way. They know we're
Yeah.
pursuing this. We've had conversations with the township for sure. And like I said, the good news is we do not have to update our site plan. Yeah, because that would have cost more money. So obviously that brings us to the actual campaign itself. You're going to receive a campaign packet tonight. And I forgot to make mention that as far as the history goes, in that packet is also a pamphlet that contains a lot more details about the history of Advent. So it's kind of a good thing for everybody to have. I think Dean put that together at some point, and so we just kind of added to it as our history continues on. So in your packet, obviously, you're going to be having a pledge form, and I just want to highlight a couple things related to that. Again, we're asking for pledges to be returned by February 29th. And it can, it's a 2-year pledge. We're giving 3 options for fulfilling your pledge. Obviously, if you need another option, just I'm sure we can come to an agreement on that. But option 1 is obviously provide your gift right up front in full. Option 2 is to provide, a portion of your gift up front, and then you're going to provide the remainder of it over a period of time. The one thing we are asking in this case, is to provide an expected date for the completion of the pledge. And then option 3 is you're not going to provide anything up front, but you're just going to start giving on a regular basis for the campaign at whatever frequency, you would like to do it at. And we also, in each one of these options, I'm just highlighting, that you can give electronically through Vanco, through our website. There is a building, Pavilion campaign logo there. Just keep in mind when you do utilize that, there is a service fee associated with that. So, if you want to do that, that's fine, but we do ask that you consider, taking into account the fee that is also included in that service. And this was actually one of our biggest challenges as a campaign team when we started talking about, how to remember our loved ones with this memorial pavilion. And we kicked around different ideas, and what we came to was the memorial name plaques. The intent is that we will have one main sign that will be, in memory of, and then you'll be able to purchase individual name plaques. The plaques are $40 each, and that cost is just to cover the cost of the plaque. That's not any additional funds go into the campaign or anything. That's the actual cost of the plaque being made. And there is no limit to the number that you can purchase as far as the number of names. There is a limit to the number of characters that can go on to the plaque. That's 25, that includes spaces. And you can put, depending on that, if you can get 2 names on, the plaque with the last name, you could, possibly do 1 plaque if you wanted 2 names on there. And they're going to be mounted on the inside perimeter of the pavilion. So you see where the red arrows are up there. So all the way around the pavilion. So obviously, depending on how many plaques we get, that'll determine kind of how far around the pavilion we might end up going with the different names. And they are, of course, intended for exterior exposure. That adds to the cost also. There are a lot of different options for doing memorial, plaques and so forth. Depends on are they inside, outside, and everything that goes with that. So. And as of right now, unfortunately, we were hoping to have an actual sample. Dean was running around trying to get that done, but the guy who's actually doing the signs for us was very busy and unfortunately didn't have the right materials. And Doretta helped me with this. I think we're going with a gray backing with black lettering. Is that correct? Yeah. So that's the intent, and the lettering, we actually looked at different font sizes and so forth, to get an idea of what might be best, and we decided on 1-inch height in the lettering. So that is what we are going to do in regards to the plaques. And on the pledge form at the bottom will be a separate section related to the plaques. And all we're asking is, if you're going to do any memorial plaques, is that you keep that totally separate in regards to a check. Okay, it's going to just help us with keeping everything in order and keeping things straight. And obviously, if you have any questions, you can ask any one of us. That is all we have in regards to our presentation. We want to thank you for coming out again. And again, this is a very generous congregation, and we are hoping that this campaign will be a great success. And we're certainly looking forward to getting this pavilion built and then being able to enjoy it as a congregation and do many things. Just a reminder that we are asking for the pledges by the end of the month. And does anyone have any additional questions? And obviously you can talk to me afterwards or whatever. Does somebody have a question?
I was curious, will then there be the packets for other people at church for them to pick up?
Yeah, like I said, you'll have the packets that are going to be over here on the left-hand side for you to pick up tonight. And then all the other packets are going to be put out on Sunday, and whatever isn't picked up on that day will be mailed out on Monday. You might notice we are taping this, and we're going to get that posted to our video YouTube channel. And we'll probably post at least the main video out onto our Facebook page to share with the rest of the congregation who couldn't attend. And I think there's something else I'm forgetting. Oh yeah, don't forget when you leave to pick up your groundhog cookie, that Doretta made. And I'm sure are quite good. So make sure you, in honor of Groundhog Day, yes. So, yeah, any other questions? Oh, how about Vince?
Can the plaques also be in honor of someone who's living instead of a memorial?
We hadn't planned for that, but maybe we can consider that. We'll have to give that some thought. As of right now, we were just intending to do the one main plaque that said in memory of, unless we decide to do otherwise.
The other side.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, but right now. Don?
Yes, Steve, how would a person differentiate between regular giving and maybe ongoing giving to the campaign?
Well-
Because it would be important for the church to be able to differentiate the funds.
Right. Right now, obviously, if you're giving through the pledge form, it's obviously going to be, the check's going to come in with the return envelope, if you will, and that'll all be clear. But if you're going to continue to give, what we're going to do is, for those who are not giving their full pledge, we're going to provide envelopes that will have the campaign logo on, and that'll help differentiate, that it's for that. And obviously, we're encouraging everyone to make clear on the memo line of any check, specifically what it is for, to keep all that straight. Yep, thank you for asking that. Yep. Very good. Any other questions? If not, I think we're gonna.
I got something.
Harry has something.
Yeah, on Dean's video, he said I was going 80 miles an hour. It was closer to 90. I just wanted to correct.
All right, thank you for clarifying. All right, we're gonna ask Carl Dahlgren, who's our current president, to come up and lead us in a closing prayer.
Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, let's thank Steve for great job. In fact, the entire committee did a lot of work. Every week they had something going, so, and I sat in on a lot of those meetings, but so we'll send you off in prayer. Let's pray. Gracious God, we give you thanks for this time together. You are the source of holy wisdom and the fountain of all truth. We give thanks to you for this congregation, its rich history within this local community, and for those who have come before us. May we find inspiration in all that they have done to bring us to this point in time. Give us strength and wisdom to be good stewards of this faith community as we move forward. Help us as individuals and as a congregation to be a beacon of your light in Harleysville and beyond, and to share the gospel of Jesus. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
All right, thank you, Carl. I think I'm supposed to announce that obviously you can stay, have some drinks, coffee, and there's going to be dessert. So the dessert table is back there. So yeah, you get to enjoy that. And just one final thing, in honor of Groundhog Day, if we don't get $130,000, we got to come back and do it again. So it's going to keep on going. But, so yeah, thanks for coming out, and I hope you had a good time and enjoyed the history. And again, I look forward to building the pavilion along with Dean and everybody else. All right, thank you.